Scott Garles at Stansberry Research. I'm here at the 2019 Alliance Conference in Las Vegas, and I am here with Eric Wade, editor of Crypto Capital. Eric, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Very glad to.
So first question, what would you tell investors who are worried about the risks of cryptocurrencies?
That's a smart position to take. You should be worried about the risks of cryptocurrencies. They're very volatile, and I have a very optimistic future long-term view of them. But if you think about it, that there's thousands of cryptos. It's dominated by one big player right now, Bitcoin, right? And the entire crypto market fits into smaller size than a large New York Stock Exchange stock. So everything we hear about cryptos, the size of the market isn't really big enough for us to feel comfortable with it yet. So I think considering it to be a risky investment, we usually recommend people have no more than 1 to 5% of their entire portfolio in cryptos. So that should give you an idea of just how risky I think it is. And I think I tend to tell people, if they don't know how much to start with, how much would you spend on one stock if you're investing, right? Don't put more than that into all of your cryptos added up. And over time, they'll become less risky and less volatile as it matures. But it's a 10-year-old industry.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I heard very similar type answers from people talking about gold too.
Yeah.
And maybe they weighted it more like 5 to 10, but still that's sort of that 5 number,
Yeah.
and you got to toe, because when it takes off, it's going to really take off. But it's hard to position yourself with like your whole portfolio is invested strictly in that.
Yeah.
Just waiting. It's.
I think the best story I ever heard to that point is a guy saying he's got half of his money in crypto, and of course that sounds ridiculous. And he said, but the funny thing is I started off with 5%. And that was the rally in 2017, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so that's why you start small.
Yeah.
Because the returns are going to be phenomenal once it really gets moving.
100%.
So.
Then what type of time horizon would you use when investing in crypto?
Oh, that's another great question. That we tend, with Crypto Capital, we tend to hold cryptos around 200 to 240 days. Although we're really proactive with, if something's not working out, we'll stop out. But I feel like I have a group of cryptos that are really long-term, like say Bitcoin, for example, we may never sell. So the time horizon would be forever. But then there's other ones that they're pretty fast moving. So on average, it works out to be half a year to a year is what you should think to yourself of, to give something the opportunity to prove itself.
That makes sense. I mean, there are plenty of stocks too that it takes time.
Yeah,
it takes faith.
absolutely.
The story has to take time to play out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mature overnight.
In most cases, absolutely. Yeah.
So then, do you expect Bitcoin to work with current currencies or possibly replace them?
You got some really well thought out questions. Bitcoin was designed to have the ability to replace other currencies, but it wasn't supposed to happen until further down, like generations from now. So is it safe for me to say yes, both of those answers, right? Is that the general idea of Bitcoin was enough of it could get out into the world, and you can divide it up into small enough pieces that it could be used as a replacement currency. And we've been, in America at least, we've been kind of with this luxury of not having to worry too much about inflation. And yeah, the Fed has been just ridiculous with injecting money into last decade, right? We all know that, and that's what Bitcoin was kind of invented to solve. Was if real currencies get away from themselves, then Bitcoin can step in. But the liquidity and whether people are willing to accept it, and whether you get your paycheck in Bitcoin, and whether you can send it through your bank and stuff like that, there's a long way to go on that. So it can't replace currencies in the short term, because we just, there's too many legacies in place. Yeah. Visa and PayPal and paychecks and whatnot. But yeah, in the long run, that's what it was built to do. So time will tell.
So again, it plays into the nibble, have a little bit of your portfolio, because when this takes off. Yeah. And then what does the regulatory landscape look like to you?
I actually feel like it's pretty sane right now. If you take in consideration the fact that a lot of the regulations that all of our financial companies have to deal with we're talking about Securities Act of 1933 and 1934, right? And of course, they've been updated over the years, but the regulators that are out there trying to keep people from scamming each other and trying to keep the investor from being ripped off. And I actually feel like the regulators for America at least, have been pretty reasonable about how they're treating cryptos. That they gave Bitcoin the stamp of approval and said that's not a security, right? We don't need securities disclosures and things like that for buying and selling Bitcoin. And I thought that was really reasonable. And then they've been making some fines lately on cryptos that they felt maybe stepped out of bounds, and the fines have been kind of reasonable. So I'm actually kind of happy to say, even though Bitcoin was built to stand on its own, and a lot of other cryptos have kind of followed that. It's like, hey, leave me alone. I don't need to interact with, with the regulators. But I feel like the regulators are treating it respectfully and with trying to control it as much as they common sense can, so that they can still allow this, because it's a different type of asset. It's not a stock, it's not a bond, right? And it's not literally currencies, and it's not gold. So there's actually a lot of debate about which regulators should even be in charge of it, right?
Right.
Why does the SEC have anything to say about it if it's not a stock? Because there's some tokens out there that are sold as if they're stocks.
Yeah.
And that's what the SEC is trying to figure out is, well, where do we come down on this, right? If you're selling something pretending it has stock-like characteristics, participate in the upside of the company,
yeah,
then you would expect the SEC to get involved.
Yeah.
And I think they've been doing a pretty reasonable job of it. So, I mean, we can't just have no regulations, right?
Fair.
That gets away from people pretty quick.
That would be bad.
Yeah. The problem on the other direction there.
100%.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks for your time as
Thanks
always.
for the
man.
great questions.
Certainly.
Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the
All right.
answers. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for further updates.